Vital knowledge, clear explanations, and simplified answers about the rules of Islam to enable English-speaking Muslims to understand Islam properly and implement it correctly. Join Sheikh Assim Al-Hakeem on Ask Zed, coming live to you on Zed TV at the following times. Our media partner, Huda TV.
الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على المبعوث رحمة للعالمين سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. أما بعد, dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to this new episode of Ask Zad. The first question for tonight is from Saif. He says, in our country, people offer prasad, that is sweets that are ascribed to the idols and then distributed. Is that allowed? Kindly give the dalil, meaning the evidence, as the native Indian sheikhs and various speakers say that it is haram and should not be taken. First of all, is the food that we consume affected by what people do? Meaning, if there's an apple on a tree, does it matter who picks it up? Whether he's a Muslim or a non-Muslim or an idol worshiper or not? If he takes this apple and puts it in front of his idol and he recites his prayers, will there be anything affecting that apple? The answer is no. For food that we consume is divided into two types: veg and non-veg, as they call it today. For us Muslims, it's considered to be meat of animals that live on land or other than that. What do you mean by other than that? Meat that is of animals that live on the ground, on earth, that are halal to us, such as cattle, livestock. So cows, camels, sheep, goats, all of these are halal. Things that we hunt, such as deers, rabbits, also birds that we slaughter, chicken, goose, ducks, whatever. These are meat that are halal for us, and they live on earth. There are other creatures that live in sea, in water, and these are halal altogether, regardless of their nature or their names. So sea dog, sea pork or pig or whatever, sea lion, all is halal. You don't slaughter it. Anything that lives in water, you can eat it once it's dead. Sharks are halal to eat. Whales, etc. Pardon me. So the sky is the limit. These are the meat. Also, there are animals that are prohibited for us to eat, such as animals that have claws and are predators, like lions, tigers, all these predators that hunt. And also birds that have the same, such as larks, hawks, eagles, etc. So this is meat. Other than that, it's vegetables, fruits, or food prepared from such vegetables or grain or whatever is available. In our religion, what is affected by what you do is the meat. So if I slaughter a dog, I cannot eat that, even if I say Bismillah, Allahu Akbar. If I find a cow that fell off the cliff and died. I cannot eat that because it's not slaughtered and the name of Allah was not mentioned. So we have two conditions for slaughtering, and that is, we say Bismillah, the name of Allah is mentioned, and it is slaughtered. The throat, the passage of the air, and the two main veins. This is Islamic. There is another condition which is regarded to the person executing this task, and that is the person who is actually slaughtering. He has to be either a Muslim, a Jew, or a Christian. We cannot eat anything else slaughtered by any person. Now, let's move on to other veg food. So again, back to the example of the apple. If a person puts an apple in front of his idols, he does his prayers, he prostrates and bows to it, and then takes the apple. The apple itself is halal. Nothing has changed. Oh, Sheikh, he did his prayers. He worshipped other than Allah. Okay, this is his problem. The apple is still an apple. So, having said that, if a non-Muslim sends us food and it is veg food, it's vegetables, fruits, sweets, anything that does not have animal ingredients in it, and whether they brought it out of their temples or they had special prayers offered on their feasts or Eids or holy days, and they present it to us, scholars have disputed. Some said haram, as Asif or Saif said. Other scholars said, no, the food is halal itself, but there are a number of preferred conditions. So if accepting it is for the sake of being good to the one who's good to you, this is recommended. If the food is halal, then there's no problem. If you're not participating in their feasts and festivals, not even by congratulating them, so you don't even say Happy Diwali, or Happy Independence Day, or Happy Christmas. If you don't say this, you don't participate in their gatherings and their festivals, there's nothing wrong in accepting it. Because accepting a gift from a non-Muslim is something permissible. Allah Azza wa Jal did not prevent us from being good to the non-Muslims. On the contrary, Allah Azza wa Jal asks us to be good to those who do not have any form of aggression against the Muslims, do not expel us out of our homes, do not prosecute us in our religion. We have to be kind to them, we have to be nice to them. This is part of our religion. And this is what was done by the companions. Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, and he's the fourth caliph, and he's the cousin of the Prophet ﷺ, and he's married to the daughter of the Prophet ﷺ, was brought once with sweets that the fire worshippers prepare on their day of feast, which is An-Nayruz. And he accepted it, he ate it, and he liked it. And he said, there's no problem in bringing such food every now and then for us, knowing that it was prepared for their fire and on the day of their Eid. Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, also was asked about the gifts given to us by disbelievers on their days of feast. She said, as long as it is fruit, there's no problem, meaning that it is not meat. And this is the choice of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, may Allah have mercy on his soul, and it is something that if you apply your common sense with your logic in accordance to the evidences from Imam Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, and from our mother Aisha and other many different evidences, you will find that it is clear, insha'Allah Azza wa Jal. Jabid says, what was the wisdom behind Prophet's prohibition on burying the dead when the sun is rising, setting, and at its zenith? Is it because it was a practice of the fire worshippers to do this? Now, Jabid's question comes to a lot of us when it's pertaining to rules of Islam. What he's referring to is the hadith of Uqba ibn Amir, may Allah be pleased with him, where he said that the Prophet ﷺ prohibited us from praying at 3 times and from burying our deceased at these times. And he mentioned that when the sun is rising and when the sun is setting and when the sun is at its zenith, and that is approximately 5 to 6 minutes before the adhan of dhuhr. So a person says, what's the wisdom? And the answer would be that as Muslims, we do not require a justification for everything that comes in the Quran and the Sunnah. Otherwise, we would not be good servants and slaves of Allah. Whenever a master tells his slave, go and fetch me this item from the market, and the slave says, why? What are you going to do with it? What is the wisdom of me going now? Why can't I buy it next week? This is unacceptable, because this is an instruction from your master. You have to adhere and obey. You don't have the luxury and the choice to ask for justification. This is exactly what happened with Satan. When Allah created Adam with his own 2 hands, subhanahu wa ta'ala, he ordered the angels to prostrate. Satan was not an angel, he was from the jinn. And Allah told us in the Quran that he was from the jinn. And we know that the jinn are different from the angels. But Allah Azza wa Jal made him in the ranks of the angels. So the instruction was for him as well to prostrate. Satan did not. And when Allah asked him, why you did not prostrate to Adam as I've commanded you, he replied by expressing his logic, expressing what he thought. And he said, I am better than him. You created me from fire while you created him from clay, and fire is better than clay. Hence, why would I prostrate? And we all know the fate of Satan because of his ill decision, because of his disobedience to Allah Azza wa Jal, that he was cast in hell for eternity. Now the same thing goes for you and me. May Allah forbid. When we ask for justification, so a man says, okay, I've looked into Islam and I found that 95% of everything in Islam is logical and perfect. Any non-Muslim studying Islam, if he brings a pen and paper and writes a table with the pros and cons and lists the things that are essential in our religion, wallahi, the least he would find is 95%, if not 99% perfect, logical. Unfortunately, you cannot find such fair people except rarely. The vast majority are so influenced by the media that they don't even put some effort or time to study what Islam says. This is beside the point. So someone says, mashallah, 95% is perfect. But there are few issues like 5% or 3% or even 1% that I'm not convinced of, that I'm not at ease with. The logical thing to say is, if 95% is perfect and correct, you should accuse your own intellect, your own understanding for not accepting these 5%. And you should accept them blindly. But this is how Satan works. He comes to you and says, why can't we Muslims eat pork? I can produce for you so many medical reports telling you how bad pork is for your health. Okay, understood. Why can't we drink intoxicants? Anyone would tell you the reason after a night of partying and being wasted and suffering from the hangover. Okay, understood. Why is usury or riba haram? Why is stealing haram? Why is killing others haram? Why is being abusive to your wife haram? Why being undutiful to your parents is haram? Everything is crystal clear, logical. Why do we pray 5 times a day? Why do we fast? Why do we give zakat to the poor who don't work and they are underprivileged while we are privileged? Everything is logical. Then Satan creeps in on one of the issues of the 5%. And then he tells you, okay, why is it that a man is prohibited from wearing gold? I'm rich. I have millions. Why can't I wear a golden ring or a golden watch? I don't know. Then there's something wrong in Islam. If I can wear a ring of with a piece of diamond that is maybe a couple of million riyals, I can't wear a golden ring that is 500 riyals or 1,000 riyals worth? I said, yes, this is Islam. This is not logical. Why does a man marry 4 if he wishes and a woman marries only 1? Why is a man in inheritance is granted double what a female is granted? And so many doubts that if you sit with a scholar, he would clarify it to you. But Shaitan or Satan, this is how he works. He diverts you from what is right into what is dubious, forcing you to neglect and ignore the 95% of actual proven facts and focus only on 1 or 2 issues. And then you get some infidels coming and saying, I don't like Islam because it has this and that. Okay, no problem. What are you picking instead? I said, I'm picking this religion. But in his religion that he has chosen, there are 95% illogical things and 5% that are logical. Yet he accepts it. If he's an atheist, there are 99% things that are illogical, yet 1% that he's mesmerized by, and he holds on to it as if it's the only ultimate truth in the world. So again, Jabir, this is something that we have no knowledge of. Our Prophet told us, alayhi salatu wasalam, we comply. It's like, why Fajr is 2 rak'ah, Maghrib is 3, and the rest of the prayers are 4? I don't know. This is how it was prescribed, and this is how we take it, and Allah knows best.
Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today I'm going to talk about the book Interactions of the Greatest Leader. Today's topic is poverty. Poverty in Islamic legislation refers to lacking or falling short of basic necessities. So, anyone who does not have a quantity that satisfies him and his family is considered in poverty and among the destitute. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam fed the trial of riches for his nation more than he fed for poverty. He sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, "By Allah, It is not poverty about which I fear for you, but I fear in your case that riches may be given to you as were given to those who had gone before you, and that you begin to vie with one another for them as they vied for them, and that they may destroy you as they destroyed them. This hadith was reported by Al-Bukhari and also in Majmu' al-Fatawa.
محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Ali asked a question, and his question is regarding the fasting of oath. Is this fasting supposed to be continued by a relative even after the person dies? So basically speaking, Ali is asking about a number of things that take place after a person dies. So he has financial debts, he has Hajj he did not perform, and he has fasting that are oaths he did not perform. First of all, regarding financial debts, it is a well-known fact that the first thing that must be extracted and taken from the wealth of a deceased is something that is needed to prepare his washing and shrouding of the body and burial. So this is the first thing to be taken from him. Secondly, we have to look at the debts. So we announce, does anyone gave our deceased money before he died and he owes him debt? So he comes forward, he brings 2 male witnesses or a written statement that yes, this is his signature, okay, we give him what the deceased owed him. Then we have to look whether the deceased had left behind a will or not. And it is his right, as any Muslim's right, to write a will not exceeding 1/3 of his wealth, allocating it to any other than his own heirs. So I cannot write a will to my wife, to my daughter, to my son, to my father, to my mother, because they are inheriting me, they are my heirs. Finally, the 4th category after finishing the first 3 is distributing the inheritance, the wealth, to the heirs according to the division that Allah has stated in the Quran. So now, financial debts are over. What about religious debts? Each individual is obliged to perform pilgrimage once in a lifetime. This is part of the pillars of Islam. If a person dies and he did not, so scholars say, take from his wealth and appoint someone to perform Hajj on his behalf. And it's known as Hajj al-Badal. Is it valid? Inshallah, it is valid. What about prayers? If he had missed prayers, scholars say prayers cannot be performed on behalf of others. Deputizing people in prayers is not valid. What about zakat money? My father pays zakat in Ramadan. He died in Shawwal, in Eid, but because he was sick, he was unable to pay it. In this case, it is Allah's right in the wealth. Give 2.5% of his cash or whatever he used to give zakat from. If he died before the time of zakat, there is no zakat. It's over. What about fasting? Well, fasting is a separate issue. Because there is a hadith where the Prophet says, whoever dies while having fasting to make up, then his guardian or his relative would fast on his behalf. So a person falls sick and he continues being sick for 6 months, unable to make up for the missed month of Ramadan, and he dies. There's nothing to be done. No feeding, no fasting on his behalf. A person falls sick, this is scenario number 2, and he recovers. But before he makes up for the missed days, which he is capable of doing, and before Ramadan is due, he dies. In this case, his relatives fast on his behalf. So if he has 10 sons and daughters, each one fasts 3 days, this is sufficient for the whole month of Ramadan. A person falls sick and then continues to be unable to fast for 3, 4, 5 years because of his old age or illness. In this case, they should have fed one poor person for every day missed. Because they did not do so, they can do it now or fast on his behalf. And I hope this answers your question. Asif from Saudi.
Assalamu alaikum.
Salamtullah.
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, alhamdulillah. What can I do for you, Akhi?
Yeah, so actually I have 2 questions.
Yes, sir.
The first question is regarding, it's like backbiting. For example, I'm working in an organization, and my colleagues, not all, but few of them, they keep complaining about the company and the managers and all throughout the day. So how I have told them it's bad, but it's so much that I don't know how to respond in a good way so that it will make effect and they will realize it is a bad thing.
So they're complaining from the management, right?
No, they are not complaining. They are not doing anything to the management, and they want to leave and die here. But they want just backbiting. It's like a backbiting. They're in front of their colleagues, on behind the door, they will say, not in front of management or something. But it is a regular practice that this management is not good. They are not giving good salary.
Okay.
Among themselves, this is the question.
Second question.
Second question is regarding, my wife's mother's sister. Is very poor. So, I'm from India and we get interest money even if we don't want. So can we give her for her regular expenses because she's very poor and maybe she's a needy. So can we give interest money for that purpose?
Okay. Any more questions?
Okay. No, Jazakallah khair.
Wajazak. Asif says that there are employees that keep on backbiting the management. So what should I do in such cases? First of all, we have to analyze whether what they're saying is in accordance to their rights. The Prophet says, alayhi salatu wasalam, مَطْلُ الْغَنِيِّ يُحِلُّ عِرْضَهُ وَعُقُوبَتَهُ, which translates to, when a rich man postpones paying back the loans he had gotten, then this gives his other side, the one who lent him originally the money, gives him the right to speak against him, which is considered to be backbiting, and to punish him through the law. So if the management is doing something wrong, if they're not paying the employees their wealth, and employees are complaining and they're saying that, look, our CEO, he is the owner of the company, he is rich, he travels worldwide, but he doesn't give us our wages. He doesn't give us our salaries. How is this? This is permissible, because as Muslims, we're instructed to give people their wealth on the spot, their salaries, their wages on the spot before their sweat dries. أعطوا الأجير أجره قبل أن يجف عرقه. Give the laborer his wages before his sweat dries. So this is something we have to do. But if it's simply chit-chatting and gossiping, so whenever the supervisor comes, they smile, and when he leaves, they say, he doesn't know how to manage, he does this, he does that. Yesterday he told us to work on time, and he came 5 minutes late. This is totally backbiting. Give them advice, admonish them, tell them that this is haram, tell them that he's getting loads and loads of your good deeds because of what you're saying. And if they do not listen, leave them. And be certain that the moment you leave, they're going to backbite you as well. Asif's second question is that his wife's aunt is poor. And like most people in India and elsewhere who deposit their salaries, their wealth in banks, the banks adds interest to their accounts without them asking. So this is the norm there. So he's saying, can I give my wife's aunt money or the interest because she is needy? The answer is yes. If she is classified as poor or needy, the interests you receive is prohibited for you to benefit from. So I cannot get the interest and pay my taxes. Not permissible. I cannot get the interest and give it to my sister so that she can marry her son or daughter. Not permissible. I can dispose of this interest to cleanse my wealth, and by doing this, I should give it either to the poor, to the needy, means of charity, even building masjids. There's no problem because I'm cleansing my wealth from it. I'm not benefiting from it, and the money itself is permissible to be used in things that are halal. Now Jabir, who claims to be calling from Saudi Arabia, he says that, is it permissible to force one's sister to marry from a man? The answer is no. No one has the permission or the ability to force a woman to marry against her will, except for the father. And this is an issue of dispute among scholars. And the most authentic opinion is that he as well is not permitted to force his daughter to marry someone she doesn't want. And Allah knows best. Fatima says, how can I practice getting up early for Fajr? Are there any practical ways for this? First of all, you have to analyze yourself. Assuming that you have a flight at 3:30 a.m., would you ever miss your flight? The answer is no. Why? Because your mind is preoccupied with your journey. You're looking up for it. You're looking for it. You're anticipating it. And it's something that occupies your mind. When you come to Salat of Fajr, unfortunately, it is at the bottom of our lists. And this shows you the amount of iman we have in our hearts. In some countries that I travel to, I ask the brother that receives me from the airport, and he's working for Isaac or for the da'wah or for whatever, he's organizing all these da'wah activities, and he looks practicing, mashallah. And I ask him, how many Fajr do you miss every month? Hoping to hear none. And I'm shocked to hear him say, Wallahi Shaykh, if I pray twice or three times a month, that's good. And I say, how is this possible for a Muslim to miss so many Fajr with the congregation? He said, I stay late until 1 or 2 a.m. doing leaflets and designing banners and organizing conferences that I'm so tired, I oversleep. This is unacceptable. Your priority should be your salat, which is a pillar of Islam. So now, for you, Fatima, you have to reschedule your daily tasks so that the priority is for salat. So when I ask normal people, what time do you go to bed? They always say 12 or 1 a.m. How do you expect to wake up at 4 if you sleep this late? So though I try, I put 6 or 7 alarm clocks and it doesn't work. Of course it doesn't work. You need to put a cannon next to your ear so that you would wake up. If you know that this is what's happening, then you have to reschedule your daily schedule so that you sleep immediately after Isha. And before you go to sleep, you fill up your stomach with water. So alongside with the alarm clocks, you will be forced to wake up so that you can go to the bathroom and answer the call of nature. So you have two factors helping one another. You also have to read more and learn more about your religion, about Islam, about Allah Azza wa Jalla and His beautiful names and attributes. You have to recite the Quran, learn the meanings of it. You have to read the biography of the Prophet, the Seerah, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, to know how he lived, how his companions lived, how their lives revolved around Islam and not the other way around. So they based their lives according to Islam, and this is what they lived by and died for. Once you manage to do this, there will be a transformation in your life, a positive one, that you would feel the sweetness of Iman with the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal. Tanima says, is it necessary for females to go to the house where some far relatives have passed away? So basically she's asking about joining gatherings for mourning. A person died, they allocate a specific time in the day, like between Maghrib and Isha. You go to the house of the deceased and you find that there are chairs, lights, people serving coffee and tea, and some of them innovate even further. So they distribute juz of Quran and say, okay, let's read it, so that 30 of us would finish the Quran collectively and give the reward to the deceased. Maybe they would have food and gather for a meal or so. All of these are innovations. Mourning the dead does not mean to innovate and gather like this. Giving your condolences can be done by the phone, can be done by visiting them in the morning or seeing them in the souk or in the masjid or in whenever it is possible to see them. But to gather for mourning and receiving condolences, this is part of the bid'ah. Imran says, what is the correct way of praying funeral prayer? Okay. Funeral prayer is composed of 4 takbir. There is no bowing, ruku', there is no prostration. So you raise your hands and say, Allahu Akbar, and you recite the Fatiha. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, bismillahir rahmanir rahim, alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin, till you conclude it. Then you raise your hand again and say, Allahu Akbar, and you offer salutation upon the Prophet ﷺ. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammadin, kama sallaita ala Ibrahim, etc. Then you offer the 3rd takbir, and then you offer the dua for the deceased. اللهم اغفر لميتنا صغيرنا وكبيرنا حاضرنا وغائبنا ذكرنا وأنثانا اللهم اغفر لهم وارحمهم وعافهم واعف عنهم واسع لهم في قبورهم وافسح لهم فيها واكرم نزلهم etc. So long. And then finally the 4th takbir, you say Allahu Akbar and then a short dua. اللهم اغفر لموتانا وارحمهم وعافهم, and then you offer 1 salam to the right. This is a sunnah that was approved by the Prophet ﷺ, and it was describing his funeral prayer. It's very easy. If you don't know the dua, one says, I don't memorize all these long du'as, then there's no problem in doing your own dua for the deceased. If you don't even know how to do it in Arabic, do it in your own native language, and alhamdulillah. Muhammad says, what is Wahhabism? Actually, I don't know. There isn't anything called Wahhabism. There is a scholar who was named by Sheikh al-Imam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, who came about 2 centuries, 3 centuries ago, roughly. And this person came at a time where the Arabian Peninsula, where we live nowadays, Saudi Arabia, used to worship idols, trees, graves, and they were far away from Tawheed. The man did not reintroduce inventing the wheel. Rather, he revived the concept of Tawheed. and instructed people to go back to the Quran and the Sunnah. Simple as that. He collaborated with Prince Muhammad ibn Saud at the time, and they had this collaboration, a joint venture of promoting Islam, and they worked together in spreading Islam in the Arabian Peninsula, which resulted in what we have today as the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Now, did he invent or introduce something new to Islam? No. Then why do people accuse his followers of being Wahhabis? Wahhab is the name of Allah Azza wa Jal. So calling people Wahhabis is wrong. There is no such sect or cult or anyone I know of that calls himself I'm a Wahhabi. Maybe out of joking, people would say, yeah, I'm a Wahhabi, meaning that you guys who hate Wahhabi, who hate Salafis or Ahl Hadith or people that follow Quran Sunnah, you accuse them of being Wahhabis. So yeah, I'm Wahhabi. What are you going to do about it? There isn't any such thing. Those who call others Wahhabis are either the disbelievers, they want to tarnish their reputation so that people would not follow Quran and Sunnah, so they call anyone who follows Quran and Sunnah as Wahhabi. And this is found in India and Pakistan and elsewhere. The super Sufis, so those Sufis who make money out of grave worshipping and having people only listen to them and not encouraging them to recite or read the Quran and to learn the Sunnah, they also call the people who follow the footsteps of the Prophet as Wahhabis. And finally, the Shia, the Rafidah, because they have so much hatred to the Sunnah and to the companions of the Prophet ﷺ, so they want to tarnish the reputation of normal Muslims by accusing them of Wahhabism. If you come to Saudi Arabia, if you go to Kuwait, if you go to the Emirates, if you go to Bahrain, if you go to India, if you go to Egypt, and you will find that the people of Ahlul Hadith, the Salafis, are also called Wahhabis. Why? Because they do not adhere to the innovations, to the breaches of Tawheed. They do not worship graves. They do not allow anything that goes against the Sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ to be prominent or to prevail. This is why they have enemies. But the Prophet told us ﷺ and gave us the glad tiding that Islam began as a strange thing, and it will end up becoming at the end of time strange again. So good tidings for the strangers. And the companion said, who are the strangers? And the Prophet said, those who follow my footsteps and my companions, or those who are with the Jama'ah. So Ahlul Hadith, the Salafis, those who adhere to the teachings of Imam Muhammad ibn Abdul Wahhab, they are all following the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ. Faiz says, how to do tayammum and what are the conditions? Tayammum can only be, which is interpreted as dry ablution, can only be done when a person is unable to use water for ablution or for purity. Whether due to lack of water, there's no water, or because he is unable to use it due to some physical hindrance, something that prevents him from using it. How is it done? It is to strike the ground, the soil, the sand, the earth, the rocks with once, and then there are two ways of doing it. Either to wipe your hands to the wrist like this, and then wipe your face. Or do the opposite. That is, strike it once, wipe your face, and then wipe your hands. Which one is correct? Well, Sahih al-Bukhari and elsewhere, the hadith narrated by Ammar ibn Yasir, I think, may Allah be pleased with him and with his father, stated that the Prophet began with wiping his hands first and then wiping his face. And the ayah in the Quran, when it talks about tayammum, it says that to wipe your face and your hands. So it is an issue of dispute among scholars. So some say we begin with what the Quran began with. Others say, no, we follow the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, especially when in the hadith it stated, ثُمَّ مَسَحَ وَجْهَهُ. Thumma means that this is in order, not just any and. It means that this was done after that. And the most authentic opinion is that both, insha'Allah, are valid. I would personally begin with the face and afterwards with the hands, and Allah Azza wa Jal knows best. I'm afraid that this is all the time we have. Until we meet next time, I leave you fi amanillah. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.